Yo, 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 what is going on, RoK Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today we are back again to talk about 2777. Here, giving you a state of affairs on what's going on, how are we? We're at about day 13 and a half, so it's going to be some really nice things to talk about and show you some of what the challenges are that you might be facing around the same time. We'll talk about kind of some of the good things, the areas of improvement, things that we're doing to address currently, and just let you know and give you a walkthrough kind of in the day of the life, right, of how a kingdom is being managed and all of the moving pieces. So it's going to be a lot, but we'll try and condense it as short as we can. As always, if you enjoy the content, make sure you sub, like, ring the notification bell, and if you want to join and be a part of our conversation, hit the Discord up, link to that, pinned comment and description down below. Okay, so let's start with just kind of looking at Province 1. So you'll notice here, right, at day 13 and a half, you're starting to notice a little bit more of the white flags here, and that's just because more alliances are either, kind of weakest link is falling, survival of the fittest, maybe merges are happening, consolidation is occurring, maybe some alliances might be migrating out. Again, this is something that every kingdom is going to face and be presented with. So you can see here, again, right, with a few already being chipped. And then we can see that from here, at least on this left third, right, you have 77 SL, right, which is one decent size. TKU a little bit. Then we got 77 LS kind of rounding out the middle. And then we get over here to the right side and we got 77C hashtag, right? That's going there as well. Now, in this case, the hope and the expectation really is to try and allow, because we're getting to this point where you're going to have the Zone 1 adjacent gates that are opening, and then eventually Zone 2 gates progressing inward will be opening later. So a lot of what we'd like to try and do is some of the kind of territory managing on attempting to have at least alliances, 3 alliances going into Zone 3, but more specifically, or sorry, Zone 2, right, for each of the provinces there, right, to try and have 9 going in minimum. And then also being able to work around, which is a nice little fix that you can do where you kind of start allowing additional alliances to go along the perimeter. And that's a way for you to allow for more alliances to progress farther in the kingdom in additional zones, and that's something that a lot of alliances, or I would say hopefully at least a good amount, would appreciate by not necessarily being isolated to a Zone 1. Though trying to give as many alliances, especially the emerging and the active ones, access to a Zone 2 gate is important, right? So when you look at Province 1, right, hope is, in the ideal situation, to try and have something like 77C, get one, have LS, in this case, get one, and then maybe SL, right? They would obviously have to flag pretty much like around this perimeter, so to speak, but that would be something that would be nice to see. They could go around wide, which is another way that they'd have to do it, but again, right, when you're kind of looking at jaking the snaking, so to speak. But what they could do in addition is just build another fort. That's an option. When we look at Province 2, things are a little bit more solidified here. You can see that we got 77 PB kind of rounding out the middle section, more like the upper middle. And then you have here face kind of rounding out the right third. Upper right here is kind of still a little bit up for grabs, right? You got G30D. And then on the west third, you have WW2 and then S77R. This would be nice if they ended up potentially merging, right, and kind of filling out this left third. In addition, with the flagging, right, sometimes when it comes to the level 1 passes and you're looking at a 2, right, I'd love for them, or if there is a kind of a left third emerging alliance, to try and get a Zone 2 pass here, right? And you can do that where you look at PB and their situation of, okay, hey, we're just going to go grab the pass, right? And then, again, you can always delete a couple flags or remove some so there's access there to the Zone 2 pass. Same thing here, right? Then you could have PB taking this one, right? You could have, face taking this two, and then you're kind of set, right, at that point. And I actually kind of like this where they're doing a little bit of splitting. I'm not sure if that makes sense overall. I'm not up to date on this alliance's potential, right? But the thing is here is when you're looking at who you're giving first cap rewards to, you want to try and identify alliances that, one, have a higher member capacity, because you have to think about first capture rewards. That's what they are, right? It's first cap, and it's the only rewards that you are going to get. So alliances that benefit more so from first cap rewards are going to be the ones that have the highest or higher member capacity, being able to give more overall rewards to a higher amount of players within that alliance. And then we get to Zone 3, or Province 3, I should say in this case, right? And we got GGI 7 here at the top working with CS. We got PH, which is another alliance. And then we have 77 US, right? And again, you can see here one alliance ended up, looks like leaving, and or not leaving, but I think some of the players here on this one down here migrated out. Others ended up consolidating and merging into. So now you have kind of the bottom third here that US is able to expand into, which hopefully should come with getting, you know, a few more structures, and then that way they can kind of give up some of the middle ones and do a little bit of an exchange, so that way it can be more in line with what the 1/3 split looks like. And then at the top, right, given that there are, I think there's 6 level 2, so you could think about splitting these 2-2-2, right, where CS ideally would be able to kind of take 2 here. You could have PH take 2, and then you could have US taking 2 as well, right? That would kind of be the ideal situation, because I think those are the 3 emerging alliances. Now remember, alliances that are taking Zone 2 passes are not necessarily going to be the ones that are all going in to, as far as that are going to be allocated specifically, a shrine in Zone 2, right? The hope is to try and have 9 of those, but then still allow for other alliances to branch into Zone 2 appropriately. Then we get to Province 4. And you're looking here, again, a little cluster. There's a lot going on at the moment. But you can see IS finally being able to really kind of extend themselves and start solidifying some territory here. The middle of this, somewhat up for grabs, but VBA is actually carving out, I think, a good approach here. Even 77HH is a little bit, but VBA is really nice and kind of positioned more so in the center, if they kind of stick to that. And then we get to the right half here, and you're kind of looking at LS, which is a potential option because they're kind of in the right third. Again, it's interesting because you have NH here, which also has some flags branching, and they're in a really good position, potentially a little bit more than LS, because from what you can see, it looks like there's only 2 there. So NH to me probably seems like the ideal alliance to take over the right third. We'll have to see how that's going with conversation, but you can already see some white flags here, some other alliances that are clearing out, and this happens as you just progress in a kingdom over time. You are naturally going to see drop off, and again, whether that's in the form of players migrating, consolidating, if they just stop playing, whatever it may be, right, you will see Zone 1 provinces fill out more well in a quality respect for RSS tile deposit distribution. As the time goes on, you'll have less alliances, right, which opens up more of those spots. Then we get to Province 5 here, and we got PS on the right third. Again, really kind of hammering that out. Then we get here like the middle third, and VN7 I think actually is in a good position. HOA 5 is in a good position. HOA is. However, HOA 5 looks like they're extending a little bit more. HOA 6 is over here on the bottom left. So again, it's not really too defined, right? The hope was really to try and have HOA, I think, initially, where they could kind of branch here on the left third. Like some of these structures, you know, they still need to get to. So those are things that we'll have to go over with them. I think if you're looking at the middle area, HOA 5 could be an option when it comes to territory. However, they still would need to start extending northeast over to a level 2 pass. And then you have PS on the right third, which is good. DP77, a little bit there. And I think we have 4 passes. So the idea here I actually would like to see would be either kind of having 4 alliances grabbing a pass if they do have a high enough capacity and high enough level. Otherwise, I'd like to see PS grabbing 2 and then HOA getting 1, and then potentially if there's a second strong alliance or a third strong alliance there, having that alliance grabbing the 3rd or the 4th level 2 pass in that case. Otherwise, worst case, if there's not, then you could have it where we just have PS and HOA grabbing 2 of the level 2 passes. However, I would really like to try and have it be a little more spread out, distributed, so that way others can feel, you know, like they're able to get something out of it too as well. Which again, even if they don't get the first cap rewards, even if it'd be nice, it does not mean that they still could not advance into Zone 2. Then we get finally to Province 6 to see how things are going here, and you got 7 PS7. Again, really branching out and extending a lot here. for what they can do on the bottom third. Then we kind of get to the middle third, and you got CR, which is 77 CR, right? Again, they're doing some branching. Would be nice if we chose some different colors eventually, so that way it's a little bit easier to identify. And then we have DO77. They're doing a really good job kind of solidifying their top third. Again, 77 CR I think is expanding maybe a little bit too far north. PS77 is close there. I'm not sure how much farther they have extended going north, but it looks like if this is their flag line, let me see here whose flag this is. I have to look. Where's the flag? Yeah, so it looks like 77 PS has been extending a little past their 1/3 allotted territory. So again, that's something that obviously will have to be corrected. And again, have to look at what those lines are. Sometimes it's just giving some friendly reminders, letting the flagging and the territory managers know, right, kind of where those outlines are. That, of course, is something that leaders and any officers that notice it should be, of course, letting them know, so that way they can be, well informed. And the same thing kind of applies for, what we're going on up here, as I mentioned in Province 1, right, by trying to allow SL or whoever may be the third emerging alliance in Province 1 an opportunity to branch out as well, going into for an attempt, right, on a level 2 passive that ends up working out. Now, again, as I mentioned, right, when it comes to level 2 passes, bear in mind that you can still do things where even if you can't directly flag, you can still build a second CF, where it'll give you access, or at least placing it nearby, right? So for a level 2 pass, that's something I think we're kind of working on right now is the next big step. So one of the things we actually ended up working on, and this is specifically on the Discord, is that we were able to start hammering out our departments, which I'm really happy about. I had some time today to where I could start really figuring out, giving each of our, I think, 5 departments, which was war, recruiting, was our mailroom, our intelligence department, and our ARC department. So 5 there that I was able to write up announcements in their announce channels, giving them some tasks, things to do, some directions on kind of where we're going. So I'm really happy I was able to finally get that done and really get caught up on a lot of things, because that now will allow for me to transition a little bit more into doing more recruiting that I would really like to do for the kingdom, and then of course going over what some of those potential distribution plans look like for the Zone 1 adjacent gates and then eventually the Zone 2 adjacent gates before we get into who's going to get allocated for Zone 2 shrines. The important thing here, and this is something that I feel this project in the kingdom is in a little bit more of a unique position to do, is that when it comes to who's going to get shrines, right, we'll obviously take a look at a couple factors. However, one of the things that I have told everyone is that, I'll be the one who will decide who will be getting what shrines and who's going to be also allowed, for the most part, to get into Zone 2, as far as more suggestions, right? So I'll let everyone know, hey, here's the 9 alliances that are going to get initial shrines, and then it's kind of up to those alliances, once they have their 1/3 territory within Zone 2, to decide on who else they want to let in. But I will advise and obviously recommend to those alliances on who I think would be good. I'm sure some of them probably already have an idea on other active and emerging alliances within their provinces, so that's something that they should, of course, be up to date on. But the idea here at the end of the day is to try and remember to keep the most amount of activity and the most amount of player retention in the kingdom for as long as we can, right, until we get to Zone 3 and we're able to kind of get past KVK 1. Because a lot of really what it comes down to is trying to have the most amount of converted fighters going into KVK with you. And the more player base, the higher player base you have, numbers-wise, the more likely you are to have a higher percentage of players that are actually going to join KVK and fight with you. The example would be if you have 3 alliances in Zone 3, and that's 450 players, you're not going to have all 450 players convert. Let's say the conversion ratio is 50%, right? So you're going to have 225 players go with you into KVK. If I have 6 alliances in Zone 3, now I'm having 900 players total, right? Because you have to think about majority of people that are usually going to convert as just a good minimum baseline is however many alliances you have in Zone 3. And so then you'd have 450 players converting with you to KVK, right? Now 50% might be a little high, but this is just an example average. And then let's say I have 9 alliances that go into Zone 3, right? So now instead of 900, I'm at 1350. So that's something to consider as well. And then if I can do some quick math, what is that? 1350. What is that? 700 is 14. So I'm looking at 675. So now I'm looking at 675 potential players that I can bring with us into KVK, right, for active fighters. So again, you just kind of have to think about, and this is why it's so important with how you're developing a kingdom from day one, because the more you cut off, the more you stop people from accessing and doing a lot more things, it can really have a huge impact overall. With that in mind, that is pretty much it for me as the kiddos are starting to come in. And I hope you guys enjoyed this update on how things are going. Still no rogues, which is nice. No rogue alliances, no rogue players. And we've reached out to every alliance and we keep in touch with them to keep building good relationships and have that established rapport, which is really nice to have. And I think that has been playing a huge factor into so many alliances and so many players still staying in the kingdom, even at almost the 2-week mark. So it's been awesome to see. Gotta love the kiddos too as well. And again, that is it for me. Don't mean to rhyme, but I'm out of time. Oh, I'm just killing it right now. And so anyways, I would love to hear what you guys think. If you're in 2777, if you got questions for just kind of how things are going, again, feel free to drop a comment. Would love to hear from you on just kind of what you think, and I'm going to attempt to try and do a lot more of these kind of in-depth coverages on where we're at, right? Because one of the next, and I'll mention the last thing here quickly if I can, one of the next big hurdles that we are working on is the alliance power balancing, right? So I think we're doing really good right now when it comes to the power that we're seeing consistently. And within our alliances, right, we have 13, right, our number 7 ranked alliance is currently 13. And the hope really, as we've always told people, is to work on bringing in migrators, bringing in players and groups so we can fill the bottom alliance up, and basically whoever the current number 7 is. And so if the current number 7 becomes 6, and the 6 becomes 7, then we start basically filling that alliance. And in order to do that, to work on power balancing and just so many huge benefits that it can bring your kingdom in a plethora of fantastic ways, you have to recruit, and it really is important. So those are kind of the big things that we're doing, and there's so much I would love to talk about without keeping the video too long, but I do hope you guys enjoy this kind of state of affairs on how 2777 is doing currently, and I'm going to start coming out with hopefully some more videos now that I'm finally and thankfully getting caught up, also buying a new car, maybe today at the earliest, if not on Monday, so I'm excited about that, to really just get it out of the way. That is it for me. Again, I'd love to know anything and everything you guys are thinking in the comments down below. Let me know. Until next time, I'll catch you later.